You're very welcome along to the Matchbook Football Podcast. Seems ages we've done a weekend preview, but I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, and joined as ever this season by Mark O'Haire and Adrian Clarke. And we're just trying our best to come to terms with those Champions League results. Some crazy stuff happening, and the setup for the second legs. We will, of course, bring you a preview on Monday. And we've got 4 games to cover. We'll just go run through that before I touch on a few things. Manchester United, Arsenal, Forest versus Manchester City, Spurs versus Bournemouth, Brentford, Villa. We'll have any other bets, long shots, and best bets. If you're watching or listening, check out the description now. Timestamps are available if you want to jump back and forward, depending when you're listening. But just to quickly point you in the direction of insights.matchbook.com, full recap of the guys' picks there each week. And every week, the Matchbook Betting Exchange is invariably best price on the odds checker grids. It's just the nature of the exchange. Well worth checking that out. And we will combine that with Bet Builder bets as well, giving you the benefits of the sportsbook, but we also have that pricing of the exchange. And we'll talk about that throughout every selection as well. We will have our £10 podcast Bet Builder money back special. And as you can see on screen, in the last couple of days before the Cheltenham Festival, if you want to get one of our best offers we've had, it's POD100. So enter the bonus code POD100. You get £100 welcome offer, the exact same as the £50 offer, in the sense you get £5 worth of £10 free bets, but it'll also take into account your commission as well for those other £50 worth of free bets. If you want the full T's and C's, check out on screen or check out matchbook.com, but make sure you enter the bonus code POD100 this week. That ends, well, not that it ends, but in terms of getting the £100 itself, that ends this week. So while we're checking out, if you want a Matchbook account before the Cheltenham Festival, let's get to it. I know Adrian is dying to get in for Manchester United versus Arsenal. That wasn't the case on Monday when we were talking about PSV. But anyway, we'll take a look at the betting that we currently have on matchbook.com. So at the moment, you can back Manchester United, talking about this offer, 5.4 at home to Arsenal, who are 182. The draw is 11-4. That's 3.75 on Matchbook. Both teams have scored no, favoured in the market at 183. The Asian handicap line sees United get a 3/4 goal head start at 1.9. And the goal line for this one currently stands at 2.5. And again, unders is favoured, 173. Adrian, take it away with that PSV performance and what it means leading into this game at Old Trafford on Sunday.
Yeah, incredible, really. Because PSV are a dangerous team. They score lots of goals at home. Knocked Juve out in the previous round. You know, this was not an easy game on paper, but yeah, Arsenal played with great freedom and the buccaneering adventure, and I loved it. I absolutely loved every minute of it. We saw glimpses of it at Nottingham Forest against a much deeper line block, a better organised team defensively, where Arsenal's movement was just a little bit crazy, if I'm honest. It was sort of players popping up here, there and everywhere, massive rotation, lots of unexpected positions that the players took up, and good energy. And it worked at times against Forest, and Arsenal did create a few chances, but obviously they couldn't score. But in this game against a PSV team that weren't great without the ball, that were very attack-minded themselves, Arsenal were able to cut loose and slice through them. So yeah, it was really, really good to see. And I think it has to be the blueprint. While Arsenal don't have a proper centre forward, they're going to have to, I think, try and play this way, because it creates unpredictability, and unpredictability has got to be Arsenal's key weapon when they don't have a prolific guy up front, or their main man out on the wing as well. So yeah, I'm hoping for a repeat against Manchester United, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, 7 goals. Mark, we might start with you for a selection here. Did you learn anything from a 7-1 win like that? I know the stats aren't like, expected goals, 7 goals or anything like that, but did you see anything on the eye test that tells you there is something in that Arsenal team that Adrian touched on, that they can maybe go on a run in the Champions League perhaps this season?
Yeah, well, we know Arsenal, first and foremost, have been a formidable defensive team for the most part, but we didn't know they had the ability to cut loose and score 7 goals without any of their 4 main forwards. You do have to balance out by the subpar performance between the sticks from Volta, Benitez in the PSV Eindhoven goal, but that's not taking anything away from Arsenal, who are excellent, as Adrian has outlined. It will give them a huge amount of confidence, and with the title pretty much done and dusted, it does give them an opportunity now to really focus on Europe, and look, they're going into the second leg without a huge amount to play for there, because the tie is already pretty much over. So they will be putting a lot of focus into this match at Manchester United. and it's difficult to dismiss them as odds-on favourites here. They went off about 125 here at Old Trafford last season when United basically had no centre-halves available and a load of kids on the bench. But United aren't in much better nick this time around, and you're getting the same price as Arsenal were away at Newcastle in the second leg of that Carabao Cup semi-final, the same price as Arsenal were when they went to Brighton away in the Premier League. And I think that's pretty generous in kind from the bookmakers, based on what we've seen from United this season, because they have stepped up and produced a performance on occasion. Obviously held Liverpool at Anfield, beat Arsenal in the FA Cup, won at Man City, but for the most part of this campaign, they have been incredibly awful. The worst United side I've seen in my generation. To see them just a point above Everton in 16th is pretty disastrous, really. They're all right at Fulham last week. Probably were the better of the two teams, but went out of the Cup. And now it's really all or nothing in the Europa League for them, because they're going nowhere in the Premier League. They're not going to go down. They won't get into Europe. So the Europa League is their avenue into European football next season. And this match is sandwiched between two very difficult ties against Real Sociedad, obviously having to travel out to San Sebastian on Thursday ahead of the Arsenal game on Sunday. So there's loads of data points that suggest United are just as bad as their league position suggests this season. One of the main stats that kind of stood out to me this week was the fact they've still yet to win consecutive Premier League games this season, and we're into March, which is absolutely astonishing. But they've lost 8 of the last 14. They've won just 3 of those. Really appalling stuff. And now they're meeting an Arsenal side with 2 days extra rest, and obviously on the back of that, remarkable result in Eindhoven. So yeah, it's difficult to oppose Arsenal, even as odds-on favourites, despite the issues they have in forward areas with the amount of players missing. Still not completely convinced those issues are solved based on what we saw midweek. And even at Forest, they've managed just 3 shots on target in their last 2 league games. But they're making progress and starting to find solutions for problems. So I'm quite happy to back Arsenal. Not overly, excited to back them at odds-on. So there's a couple of ways you can engineer a better price. First of all, just chuck in under 4.5 goals. On Matchbook, you're getting 2.04 for that. I can't see this being a complete shootout based on the issues both sides are suffering in the final third. But the angle I will take here is to back under 5.5 cards alongside the away win, which gives us a nice 2.3 shot here. Won't be too surprising to hear Anthony Taylor is refereeing, hence the unders option here. He did go a bit wild last week in the FA Cup, but 4 of the last 5 meetings between these two teams have gone under 5.5 cards, including 2 of those matches, which were refereed by Anthony Taylor. He's produced back-to-back 0-card games in the Premier League. He's gone under 3.5 cards in 13 of his last 17. He's gone under 2.5 cards in 10 of his last 15, and he's given 0 cards in 5 of those 15. So 6 cards or more feels like a bit of a stretch. I know there was a bit of needle between these two teams in the FA Cup, but Taylor is averaging just 3.04 cards across his Premier League season so far, despite giving 10 in Southampton versus Leicester, and 14 in the Chelsea versus Bournemouth game as well. So, you take out those 2 huge card counts, and his average is even lower than that 3.04. So happy to oppose a really high card count and back the away team.
Okay, that's 2.3 as Mark alluded to there. Adrian, you're just going for the Arsenal win. 1.75-ish in the sports books, 182 currently on Matchbook.
Yeah, 182. Yeah, it is short, isn't it? And it doesn't feel quite right. Seeing them this short Old Trafford, because Arsenal don't have a particularly good record. Even when United have been dreadful before, they seem to summon up some of their better performances to pick up points against Arsenal at home. But yeah, this time around it does feel a bit different. I sense that United are really struggling. Obviously, they've got some good players out, haven't they, at the moment? No Ahmed, Mainu, Martinez, Anana's in awful form. Højlund hasn't scored in 18 games. So there's a lot of, there's no Rashford now. There's a lot of sort of red flags for United. I've written a piece on this week talking about their attacking struggles and, going through the data, that they're where they should be. As in all the metrics in terms of scoring goals and creating chances, they're kind of ranked between 12th and 17th, and of course they find themselves in 14th, United. So what I would say that would provide Arsenal with is a degree of confidence that they can play the way they did against PSV and risk it, and push those fullbacks on, make them join in the second strikers as we saw. Declan Rice can push on and go and make things happen inside the final third. they can kind of have a little bit of fun with the movement in this game, knowing that they've got a solid centre-back pair in, there, but also that United are really struggling for form going forward. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident, actually, that Arsenal will win. The reason I haven't paired it with under 4.5, which I think is absolutely the most sensible shout, of course it is, it's that I actually think Arsenal could thump United. PSV, for me, are a better team. So, and Arsenal did put the ball in the net 9 times in that game. I'm not saying that's going to be repeated here, but Arsenal are capable of it if United are poor again and if Arsenal play to the same level. So let's see. But I'm just going to play it safe. Just go with Arsenal to win the game.
Okay, Adrian's going for Arsenal just to win. Mark would win and under 5.5 cards. If we combine for the £10 podcast Bet Builder money back special, Arsenal win under 4.5 cards and under 4.5 goals at 3.2. If you put that into your match with Bet Builder and it loses, you get your £10 back as a free bet. So check that out on insightsamatchbet.com if you want a full recap of that. Arsenal to win under 4.5 cards and under 4.5 goals. Early kickoff time, Nottingham Forest versus Manchester City. Forest are 4.0 here at the City ground. City 196, the draw 4.0. Both teams to score, yes. 163 on Matchbook. The Asian handicap line sees Forest get a half goal head start. That's basically double chance 2-0-2. More on that in a second. And 2.5 is the total here. Currently, overs is favoured at 166. Mark, let's throw this back at you. Nottingham Forest, that Asian handicap line seems a decent show for you.
Yeah, definitely. Really, really, really like it. Odds against offering for them to avoid defeat against this Man City team. Yeah, it does appeal. No doubt at all, Forest have enjoyed a bit of a blip in recent weeks. But most of those performances have come away from the City ground. They still remain very difficult to oust in front of their own supporters. And look, their style of data suggests the team have overachieved across the campaign, but they still remain a very tough nut to crack at the City ground, as your Arsenal found out last midweek, as Liverpool found out as well. So despite being second best in both of those fixtures, they've managed to pick up points. So yeah, this isn't a venue or an occasion where I want to be backing Man City at odds-on quotes away from home. They have shown signs of sort of life and improvements, but again, most of those have come at the Etihad. I still find them far from a trustworthy team on their travels. But there's a multitude of stats and data points we could pick out to sort of justify those claims, but just a few of them. They've managed just one win away at teams in 12th and above, 5 defeats, 3 draws in that sample, conceding 2 goals or more on 7 occasions in 9. They're coming into this game without 3 of their best 4 defenders in Ake, Stones and Akanji. They've kept 5 clean sheets and 20 away across all competitions. And that's really troublesome, I think, going away to a team like Forest, because if you're backing a team at odds on, you're almost reliant on them scoring at least twice to stand any chance of winning the match because of that defence. And scoring twice against Forest at the best of times isn't easy, especially at the City ground. They've conceded 0 or 1 goal in 11 of 13 home fixtures this season. That's included matches against Liverpool, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Villa, Brighton, Fulham, Spurs. All sides have got plenty of attacking weapons, and they've struggled here. So, and look, City's underlying metrics do not paint a pretty picture away from home either. They've won the XG battle just 6 times in 14 away Premier League games this season. Their expected goals ratio on the road is at 51%. Now, we're accustomed to seeing that ratio figure closer to the sort of 60% mark or even higher. Really, it just means that they've basically had a 51% share of the total expected goals in their games, which isn't good enough for a team chalked up here at odds-on quotes. So I'm more than happy to oppose them. Despite Forest's recent wobbles, they've still lost just 7 times all season. Just 2 of those have come at home. And to get them at odds against to avoid defeat is really quite appealing. But I'm going to be greedy. It's a theme we've talked about a couple of times, but it's an approach I played personally against Arsenal when Forest came here recently, which is to back Forest double chance and the opposition to have the most corners. So Man City to win the most corners. It does boost the price on Forest double chance to 2.8, which I think is a really nice price considering Forest have lost the corner count in 14 of the last 17 league matches, including at home to Southampton of all sides. 85% of their visitors here have won 5 corners or more. And I think if we can try and map out how this match might play out stylistically, you can kind of envisage City dominating possession, dominating territory and trying to break down this Forest side who will be doing their best to nullify City and play on the counter-attack and in transitions. And naturally, pressure, possession, territory will lead to City corners. So kind of happy to sort of boost the price there by including the City corner angle. So Forest double chance of Man City most corners 2.8.
Okay, Adrian, you're in agreement with Forest double chance, that Asian handicap price, plus half a goal, 2.02.
Yeah, completely in agreement. And I think you should pick Mark's selection because that's a nice little boost, isn't it? To 2.8. Oh, you would absolutely expect City to have more corners than Forest. You know what the game plan will be. They'll sit in and contain and then look to break, won't they? So but look, they are the sort of team that have caused City problems stylistically. Nico Gonzalez, I have to say, has made a difference, a positive difference. I wrote about that this week. City are giving up a lot fewer chances on the break and big chances overall since he's come into the team. So not as easy to get at City now, but they can do it. But when you're backing this, they don't need to win the game, do they? A draw is good enough. And look, since the start of October, Forest have a 7-2-1 record. 7 wins, 2 draws, 1 defeat. They lost to Newcastle, had an off day, and they drew with Liverpool and Arsenal. And look, this is City, not as strong as Liverpool or Arsenal. I think they can absolutely get a draw here, even though they're not at their very best. City's away form, obviously Mark's touched on it brilliantly, against the top 12, 9 away games, only 1 win and only 1 clean sheet. And that was against Chelsea on the opening weekend of the Premier League season, so going away to teams in the top 12, don't keep clean sheets, City. So, and if they let in 1 here, they're going to find it hard to win the game because Forest do not give up too many goals. City, by the way, in those 9 games against the top 12 away, have conceded 2 or more in 7 of the 9. So, they have struggled in this type of fixture. So, not saying they're going to concede 2 here or more, but they could, which is why, I want this on side. So, Forest plus half a goal, but defo lumping Mark Shout on the corners.
Absolutely, we'll lock that in just with that extra bit of boost to 2.8 Mark selection and move on to Tottenham versus Bournemouth. We'll take a look at the betting that we have on matchbook.com. Fascinating market, you have to say. Tottenham 272, again, recording this on Thursday morning before Europa League action. Bournemouth 258, the draw 395. Both teams to score, yes, 142. That's much more like it now, isn't it? Asian handicap line effectively drawn up bet market at +0 with Bournemouth marginal favourites, of course, at 192 and 3.5. The total unders, slight fab at 186. So back to you, Adrian. I mean, it's just an exciting game to watch. How is it going to go? Is it just a case of backing goals?
I've got no idea how it's going to go. I'd say Bournemouth are the better team, and they've got a good chance of winning the game, Bournemouth. But Tottenham have loads of threats themselves, don't they? And they do have some players back in the team. I think the return of the keeper is a big one, isn't it? Vicario's made a hell of a difference. I think even though they've sort of won 3 and then they lost narrowly against City, do think Tottenham rode their luck a little bit in those games. Brentford had a lot of chances, a lot of pressure. Ipswich could have scored 4 goals themselves, even though they lost 4-1. And the Man United game, it wasn't a good game, but United did have the best chances in that. So I'm not sold that just because Vicario and Danso and Udogie and Bentancur are all available again, that suddenly they're solid. They're not. They're not solid. And Bournemouth are a real threat, aren't they? They've been scoring a lot of goals away from home in particular in recent weeks. They're cutting loose. Very, very confident, aren't they? 6 of Bournemouth's last away games have gone over 3.5 goals. And they've contributed plenty to those totals. The other 2 games that didn't go over 3.5 goals had 3. So, Bournemouth are involved in some really exciting games on the road. Over the course of the season, half of their games have gone over 3.5 away. And for Tottenham, half of their games at home have gone over 3.5. And I just feel that with these two very attack-minded teams colliding, that it feels more likely than it is to go under. Remember, Spurs don't keep clean sheets, or not very many. 2 in 14 league games out of Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this season. So, you can't rely on them. I think both teams will score here. It could be 2-2. It could be 3-1 either way. It could be 3-2. I think it could be one of those games. So, odds against, which is 2.08. I'm going to go and cheer on goals in this one, over 3.5.
Okay, yeah. Remember the exchanges, those competitively goal line prices 2.08. Mark, were you tempted by that over 3.5 goals, or how do you engineer trying to get goals on side here at a decent price?
Well, many different ways. Always looking at sort of high goal lines when Spurs are involved, and Bournemouth obviously considered Spurs corners as well, an angle we've talked about previously. Gone down a different route this week, which I'll get to, but there's little excuse now for Spurs, is there, coming into this game and from here on in. They've had the weekend off. They've had a couple of midweeks off as well. Players should be well rested. I know they've got the Europa League on Thursday night before this against RZ, but I think Dragusin is the only player who's definitely missing now for the weekend, unless there's injuries on Thursday night. So the market was beginning to sort of adjust back to expectations of where Spurs really should be. But in the last 24 hours, there's been a big move against them and for Bournemouth, actually, in this match. They flip-flopped in favouritism. And I think that's probably fair based on what we've seen across the whole season, what Bournemouth are producing, because they're third on expected points, fourth on away expected points this season. And they've only lost the expected goals battle 7 times in the Premier League this season, which is quite remarkable, really, considering all the injuries they've had to deal with as well. They're starting to heal a little bit. Evan Nielsen is back and contributing. They're hoping that Ryan Christie will be back as well. Zabani is still suspended, which is a bit of a blow. And they need to sort of halt their own run of form, 3 defeats in 4. Their road record hasn't been the greatest. The majority of their wins have come against bottom half teams, but we definitely know they're more than capable of going there and getting a result. In terms of the best bet, we've got 2 very well-matched teams stylistically. Both teams will look to press, try and win the ball back very high, play in transitions. There are various different difference makers in the final third, you could say, for both teams. Slight concern, but the reverse match between these 2 teams, they kind of cancelled each other out a little bit. But I still think we'll get a decent game here and an enjoyable contest. So, both teams to score should be the foundation for me for a best bet. And Spurs did fail to fire against City last time out at home. They've actually only scored 3 goals in the last 4 home league games, but the overall record under Postecoglou at home and the overall record for Bournemouth away under Iraola since the start of last season just screams goals, basically. 79% of Spurs home games BTTS, 73% of Bournemouth away games have gone BTTS, and both teams, hovering around the sort of 75% mark or above for overs games. But I'm going to combine it with Justin Kluivert to have a shot on target here, who I still think is being massively underrated by the market in this for a shot on target. He obviously scored that worldie away at Brighton last midweek. That goal was his 10th away goal of the season for Bournemouth, which is quite a remarkable record. But even more incredible is his stats since November. So he failed to score in his first 5 away league games this season. Since then, he's got 10, including 2 hat-tricks, and provided 2 assists in just 8 away appearances. So he's averaging a goal involvement every 52 minutes. But the key stat here is obviously the shots on target, where he's been just an absolute machine, really. Across his last 21 Premier League starts of 60 minutes or more, he's landed a shot on target in 18 of 21. The only player with a better hit rate over that same period is Mohamed Salah. He's had a shot on target in 8 of 10 away. He boasts the best shots on target per 90 figure of all Bournemouth players as well. And look, I just think, you look at Spurs' record at home this season, only West Ham outside of the bottom 4 are facing more home shots on target. They're also giving up over 9 shots in the box at home per game. So, Kluivert should get plenty of opportunities to enhance that record. And he's been pretty remarkable since November, really. So happy to get him on side. It's 1.9 for both teams to score and Justin Kluivert to have a shot on target.
Okay, whatever way you want to go about it, bet builder option, as Mark alluded to there, but we'll lock in the exchange option there with over 3.5 goals, 2.08, and just cheer on goals. But both selections, are pro goals. at Tottenham versus Bournemouth. Let's move on to our final game we're covering in our main section. Brentford at home to Aston Villa. Brentford are 2.38 favourites at the time of recording here. Aston Villa 3.05 now. The draw is 3.9. Both teams to score, yes. It's currently 1.5. The Asian handicap line sees Villa get a plus quarter goal at 193, and 3.5 is the total under shading at 172. Mark, my throw back to you at this one. I thought we were onto a winner into when it was 1-1 in Club Brugge versus Villa. It didn't feel like Villa were capable of getting a late goal, and they won 3-1. I just thought Brugge were the better team for at least 80 minutes of that game, and that's just on the eye test anyway.
Yeah, sorry for the hard luck stories, but I feel proper beaten up by the Champions League this midweek. It was, the draw at PSG looked to be, Liverpool didn't deserve to win the day, but had Club Brugge as well. It seemed to be going in our favour. Also had, obviously, in my private service had 0 cards in the Madrid derby, and to have that spoiled by a celebration of running into the supporters, it hurt. But back to Villa. This is normally the spot to fade Villa, isn't it? Immediately after the Champions League. They've had 4 away games after the Champions League and lost all 4 previously. They do not have a good record after midweek matches. But Tuesday to Saturday, the turnaround is all right. And they don't play Bruges again until Wednesday. But I think a more key point, actually, is Villa's returning players. They've pretty much got a full squad by Ross Barkley and Amadou Onana. And that could start to make a difference, particularly in defence. But even still, that 3-1 win at Club Brugge was massively flattering. I thought Club Brugge were the better side of the 2 teams, and then had obviously a really unfortunate second goal conceded, and then a bit of a brain fart with the penalty. But for Aston Villa defensively, we just keep saying the same thing week in, week out, really, and it's difficult to trust them at these kind of prices or in these kind of environments when they can't keep clean sheets. It's 2 now in 19 away games across all comps. They've also conceded at least twice in 10 of the last 15 away. Their Premier League form away from Villa Park is 7 defeats in 9 more recently, including that dreadful display at Palace when they were kind of beaten up at Selhurst Park. Home or away, it's 3 wins in 11 since Christmas. And the defence is a big part of that problem. So they are firing in forward areas. Just defensively, they're difficult to really trust. And I think they'll suffer a bit here at the G-Tech. Brentford are winless in 6 at home more recently, but they still pack plenty of punch in the final third. And Mbeumo, Visser, Schade, they've scored 33 of their 48 league goals, and I just can't see Villa stopping them on Saturday. So first port of call here for me is to back both teams to score. Villa are the best team in the Premier League for that particular metric, 20 from 28. It's 18 from 27 for Brentford. So they're the 4th best in terms of both teams to score winners. And to engineer a more palatable price, it's going down Adrian's famous route of both teams to score and under 4.5 goals for an odds against quote here of 2.05, which I think is really quite nice, actually. 84% of Premier League games have gone under 4.5 goals. Only 3 of Villa's games have featured 5 goals or more. And whilst you can look at Brentford and say, well, they're absolutely more prolific in terms of being involved in very high-scoring games, exclude the bottom 4, who, as we know, are quite cut adrift now, 10 points behind the rest of the division. Exclude the bottom 4, and just 2 of Brentford's 21 games have gone over 4.5 goals. So, we've got the 1-1, the 2-1, the 3-1 either side, and the 2-2, of course, on side 2. So, odds against on that, I really like that.
Yeah, we had a midweek PSG versus Liverpool. PSG didn't contribute to the both teams to score somehow, albeit Liverpool lucky to even get a goal, Adrian. But you're siding towards Brentford. I guess Villa's season, I mean, it could go a number of different directions given they're obviously still in the Champions League.
Yeah, I like Villa. They've got some really good players, particularly going forward. And that was a great result in midweek, but they weren't great. And Brugge definitely, for me, shaded it as being the better side. It's the away form for Aston Villa that I think you can't really trust them yet. 1 win, 1 draw, 7 defeats in their last 9 in the Premier League away from home. Only 1 away clean sheet in the entirety of the campaign in the Premier League. And look, in their overall 13 away games, they've let in 2 or more in 9. So this is a team that really don't get clean sheets on the road. So I think Brentford score. I also think Villa score. Villa got some really excellent attackers. Good choice now. You got strength in depth coming in off the bench. So, and Brentford, haven't had a clean sheet at the GTEC this season in the Premier League. So both teams score is the absolute runner here. So yeah, I've just gone with Brentford double chance as a pairing rather than the under 4.5 goals. It's an either or, isn't it, really? But if you do lean towards the Bees, then go with this one. You know, that I think the recent home record is not a really fair reflection. I think they've played pretty well. Like, they battered Spurs and somehow lost that game. Liverpool, they were well in that game. It was only at the end that Liverpool won it. I think that, and obviously away from home, they've started to really cut loose with the forwards. You know, Leicester and Southampton were on the receiving end of hidings, weren't they? That shows the capability. Now, Villa are obviously better than that, better than those two teams. But I do think that Wissa and Mbumo and others, you know, got Damsgaard creating loads of chances. I do think that they're capable of scoring goals. Bournemouth, the Bees, by the way, have let in a lot of goals against top half sides, home and away this season. So that's the only concern. But I think they'll have enough here to avoid defeat, even if they'll concede. So both teams score, and Brentford double chance, that comes in at 1.96.
Okay, both guys looking to boost up both teams to score 1.5 price. Might lean towards Mark, just a slightly bigger price, 2.05. But take your pick, insights.matchbook.com. Those bets are recapped and all the bets we're about to cover here. Mark, head over to the Championship and probably the most incredible defensive performance, I'd say nearly of all time in the English top divisions. It's not far off that, surely, mate. You'll probably have the numbers better than me. But what do you fancy with Burnley this weekend?
Rinse and repeat, really. Well, I say that they conceded in midweek, didn't they, against Cardiff to end their record-breaking clean sheet run in the second tier. I suppose it had been coming. Their previous game against Sheffield Wednesday, which Adrian was at, they won that game 4-0, but it was anything but a 4-0 game. Wednesday, if anything, deserves something from it rather than a 4-0 thrashing. But Burnley, you know, continue to be so efficient in the final third. They're now just 2 points behind Sheffield United in the promotion race with a superior goal difference, and now they've got a home game against struggling Luton at Turf Moor. The numbers are well documented. 35 games deep into the season, 25 clean sheets, 10 goals conceded. Astonishing stuff, really. And I'm just happy to sort of follow them in again. They've lost just twice this season, understandably, based on that defensive record. Backing both teams to score no alongside Burnley double chance gives us a 1.8 shot. You're basically backing Burnley to win to 0 or the 0-0. This is the bet that has won in 25 of those 35 games, 13 of 17 at Turf Moor, 16 of 20 when facing bottom half teams. Pretty incredible figures there. Luton did get a win last week against Portsmouth to give their survival hopes a bit of a boost. Going into that game, they were winless in 12, losing on 9 occasions. They've not really had a new managerial bounce from Matt Bloomfield. Back on the road now, and they are just dreadful travellers this season, winning once, losing 14 of 17 away. They've lost without scoring in 6 of 8 trips to the top 10. And they've been to Leeds, Sheffield United and Sunderland, top 4 teams. They've lost all 3 of those by at least 2 goal margins without scoring. So I think Burnley should be well capable of repeating that feat. But this selection at least gets the 0-0 onside. As we know, Burnley love a clean sheet, but they also love a 0-0. It's occurred 11 times this season, so trying to cover all angles. Burnley to win to 0 or the 0-0 gets us a 1.8 shot.
Yeah, keep doing it until it doesn't work, I guess, and they start conceding goals. Incredible run, really. Adrian, Derby versus Blackburn is your first pick here.
Yes, the John Eustace derby. Obviously, John Eustace recently left Blackburn to go to Derby. Bit of a controversial move with Derby entrenched in the relegation zone and Rovers sort of on the verge of the playoffs. But, that's what's happened. He'll be glad this is at Pride Park rather than at Ewood, where he'd have copped a lot of flack, I would imagine. It's going to be an interesting game. Bit of a reunion. Blackburn have got the new manager, Valerian Ismail. And I always think when new managers come in, they almost always concentrate on the defence first, the shape, etc. So I don't expect them to cut loose here and be super fluent. Blackburn, who were really bad actually in their last away game at Swansea. They got beat 3-0 and they didn't show up at all. So it's not going well for John Eustace at Derby. They're 7 points from safety. No wins yet for him. And as a team, basically, he's inherited a side that just don't score goals. Not a lot of pace up front, not much creativity in the starting 11. They've scored twice in 10 matches since New Year's Day, Derby County. Absolutely awful. At home, wait for this, they haven't scored at home since Boxing Day, which is just mad, really. I was there between Boxing Day and New Year to watch the Leeds game, and it feels like forever ago. Derby fans haven't seen their team score, since before that. So it's crazy, how bad they've been as an attacking force. What I will say is that Eustace, if anyone should know the weaknesses and the strengths of Rovers, it is Eustace. So I think he'll be well equipped to tame Rovers himself. So yeah, I'm looking at both teams to score no here. Unders is a little bit too short, but both teams to score no is at a backable 1.86. It's landed in 11 of 17 home games for Derby. It's landed in 10 of 17 away games for Blackburn Rovers, who have also blanked in 3 of their last 7 on the road. And they blanked, interestingly, at Millwall, at Oxford, and at Swansea. Not exactly the toughest away games in the division, So yeah, they struggle a little bit themselves to score goals on the road to Blackburn Rovers. So yeah, I see this being very much 0-0 or 1-0 either way. So both teams score no for me, 1.86.
Okay, yeah. Jeff Hendrick coming back, so maybe the Irish international, former Ireland international, might start creating some goals there. Adrian, yeah, who knows? Second selection, Wickham, pro Wickham angle here, away to Peterborough.
Away at Peterborough, yeah. So look, Wickham for me are the real deal. Everyone thinks how plucky Wickham, but they're a proper team. They've got a good budget. They've got great players. They've changed their manager, and it's not much of a downturn. Few draws, but Mike Dodds has masterminded 3 clean sheets in 4 games, so he's nice and solid. Up front, the key news is that Richard Kone is back fit. Missed a couple of games. So he is in the team with Udo, and both of them are on fire. My friend Sam Parkin watched Wickham the other night and said that Kone was amazing. He thinks he's destined for top end championship at least. And I just think that they are maybe being underestimated here. They're 2.24 shots to win at Peterborough, who have had a stinker of a season. They were in and around the relegation zone until a couple of weeks ago. They've picked up a little bit. They've picked up. So it's not as precarious for them, but I don't see them being in Wickham's league, if I'm honest. It's a top side against a side that's really, really struggled this season. Against the top 8 sides, Peterborough have lost 9 and won 1 this season. Wickham are second, so they don't have a good record against the best teams. I'm gonna pair Wickham. So I'm not going to go all in on Wickham because it's Peterborough. They're not the worst team in the world. I'm going to go double chance, play it safe, but I will pair it with under 3.5 goals. As I said, lots of clean sheets for Wickham of late. They've not let in more than 1 goal in 12 matches in 2025. So yeah, Wickham do not let in more than 1 goal. It just hasn't happened this year. They're unbeaten against everybody outside the top 6 as well, Wickham Wanderers this season. And under 3.5 goals, which is my angle, has landed in the last 15 Wickham matches. So 15 games in a row, nothing's gone over 3.5 goals. So yeah, I really fancy this. Wickham double chance, under 3.5. It's just the wrong side of even money, about 1.96 at the moment.
Okay, interesting angle from Adrian. Wickham, solid team to support there away to Peterborough. And we'll move on to long shot time. And Mark, this is quite a fascinating angle you have here for Liverpool versus Southampton. Liverpool's season has been going so smoothly.
Southampton's going to win. He's back in the States.
No, complete. It's a similar price, but not. And he's getting a lot of Liverpool stuff angles. And obviously the performance might not have been great last night, but incredible result for them, to be fair.
Yeah, and I've no doubt they'll have their eyes on that second leg this weekend. So we'll expect
Great
some
game.
rest and rotation to their team. But I do expect it to be a stronger side than the team we saw in the FA Cup, for example, against Plymouth. They'll be well aware the title race isn't done and dusted, even though it looks like it should be. And I think they will put in a professional performance. And the opposition are, heading to be one of the worst teams we've ever seen in the Premier League. So even a second-string Liverpool side should be capable of sweeping them aside comfortably. Saints have conceded 3 or more goals in 7 of the last 8. During that sample, they've lost 5-0, 4-0 twice, 3-1 3 times. And over the course of the whole campaign, they're giving up 3.11 goals per game on average. So Liverpool at Anfield, not the easiest task, even if they do have PSG in the back of their minds. So I'm expecting Liverpool to try and start early and get this game done and dusted early doors. So I'm going to back Liverpool to win by 2 or more goals and Liverpool to be ahead at half-time and full-time as the foundation for my long shot, which is basically built around Liverpool not to receive a card in this game, Liverpool under 0.5 cards, which has now occurred in their last 3 Premier League games and 5 of their last 11 going back further. But this kind of comes much more to life when you look at Southampton's opposition card counts. So more recently, their opposition have collected 1, 0, 3, 0, 0, 1, 0 cards. So that's 5 cards in 7 games, but 4 of those matches, the opposition weren't carded at all. In 6 of those 7, they received a maximum of 1 card. And if you look at the whole season, when playing away from home, Saints opposition or the home team facing Southampton have collected an average of just 1.29 cards. The referee, I've lost his name. It's just gone off my screen. He's a middling referee, but if you do expect it to be pretty much one-way traffic in Liverpool just to keep ball in the second half and play out the game with PSG in mind, I do like the idea of it being a low card count. So Liverpool, no cards, Liverpool half-time, full-time, and Liverpool to win by at least 2 goals. 4-1, by the way. Should have said that.
Okay. Smith is the referee.
Yeah, Lewis Smith.
Lewis Smith, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's Liverpool -1, Liverpool half-time, full-time, and Liverpool under 0.5 cards if you go to the bet builder on Matchbook. And if you want a recap of that, if you're listening on the podcast, insights.matchbook.com. Adrian, take away with your selection, long shot territory here.
Yeah, I'm just picturing Liverpool. Curtis Jones scoring the 7th goal for Liverpool to make it 7-0, whipping the old shirt off. Just to pick up the first yellow of the game. I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. I'm dipping into League 2 for my long shot. I'm surprised I can back this really because at the price because for me Bromley are favourites to win at Tranmere. Tranmere are having a rotten season since Christmas. At Prenton Park, they've had 8 matches since Christmas and scored 6 goals. Really, really struggling to score goals at home. They're winless in 12, and they've also blanked in 7 different home matches already this season. Tranmere Rovers, who recently sort of parted ways with Nigel Adkins, the manager. They've got a caretaker in charge at the moment, but they're just not free scoring. They don't score very many goals. They've actually not scored more than 1 goal in a match since December the 14th. So I want Bromley and both teams to score no here. With obviously them to win to 0. Bromley have kept clean sheets in 5 of 8 games away to sides 12 or below. So this is the type of fixture they've gone to and kept clean sheets. More importantly, they've won 5 of their last 6 games, and all 5 wins were clean sheet wins. So they are churning out the 1-0ers and the 2-0ers at the moment, Bromley. The only game they lost actually in that run was 1-0 to inform Bradford. So their defence is super solid at the moment, Bromley. They're not giving teams very much. And up against a really limited Tranmere, I think they can absolutely keep a clean sheet here. And I just think that with them chasing the playoffs and a lot of pressure on Tranmere to sort of stay in the EFL, their 3rd bottom, this is the sort of game that Bromley will take really seriously. They'll target the 3 points, and I think they'll get them. So Bromley to win 2-0, and it comes in at 5.0.
Okay, yeah, Bromley and both teams to score no, 5.0 on Matchbook. Best bet time, Mark. We've covered this, so you don't need to spend too long, but you do really like that Brentford Villa angle of both teams to score and under 4.5 goals.
Yeah, 2.05. I think that's a really, really nice price when you consider Bees are yet to keep a home clean sheet. Villa have managed just one away from home. You've got the leading team for both teams to score winners against the fourth best for BTTS as well. So I think both teams to score looks a real gimme. But to pair it of under 4.5 goals to give us that odds against price. As I say, Bees have gone 21 from 23 against teams outside at the bottom four for under 4.5. Villa, it's occurred just 3 times all season. Just combining the two gives us 2.05. I really like that.
Okay, and final one for you, Adrian. I mean, mid-season, you could maybe get a little bit excited for Ipswich perhaps staying up. It hasn't quite worked like that. The odds of Palace winning, for example, this weekend at home in Selhurst Park, 152. But you do expect, or you think Ipswich are a good bet here to get on the score sheet?
Yeah, I think they're always a good bet to get on the score sheet, aren't they, Ipswich? I think that the Wolves situation will have given them a bit of a lift, actually, with Cunha. What's happened there. That's their best player sort of sidelined for a bit. And they've been scoring goals for fun. Delap's in great form. Philogene got a couple, didn't he, at Old Trafford? I mean, they'll be kicking themselves. They lost to Manchester United, who were down to 10 men. Yeah, that was a bit of a disaster for them. But all is not lost. It's a mini season, and Ipswich do look the most likely of the bottom 3 to have a chance. They score goals. They regularly. They don't keep clean sheets though. So Palace can score here. Ipswich have kept just 2 clean sheets all season. Palace have scored in 21 of 27 games. No Mateta is a blow, but they've got plenty of other players, I think, to share the load. Obviously with Eze and Ketia probably coming into the team and others. I think Palace will certainly get on the score sheet, but Ipswich score goals, don't they? I've just said it. Both teams to score has landed in 10 of 13 away games for Ipswich Town this season. They've only actually failed to score at Arsenal, Forest and Brighton. So they will go anywhere and pose a threat in front of goal. Ipswich's last 7 in all competitions has seen both teams to score land. And wait for it, Palace at home, the last 8 Premier League home games at Selhurst Park has seen this bet land. Clean sheets have been few and far between for the Eagles. I was surprised that this wasn't odds on. It's bang on even money, 2.0, which is why I've picked it for best bet.
Okay, seems big price based on Premier League goal trends alone. Ipswich 1.17 to get relegated on Matchbook. So I'm not as short as maybe I thought. So not completely dead, as Adrian said. Inside.matchbook.com, full recap of the guys' picks. We'll be back on Monday to preview those fascinating second legs and a lot of those ties eagerly poised. But until then, enjoy the weekend's football. If you're having a bet on Matchbook, make sure it enhances the enjoyment of watching the football, but please do so responsibly. We'll chat to you next Monday. Bye-bye.